Welcome to the Forest Brothers podcast. We're back again with another video, different layout because we always gotta switch it up, keeping you 10 toes vibes. You know what? We're getting used to this YouTube thing. You know, I hope you guys are enjoying seeing us face to face. You know, as we chat to see like what do I look like when I'm speaking nonsense. Now you can actually look at me. Now you can see me. So I hope that's been a positive thing as our listeners here. But you know, it's your boy Mutsa Chris Down. We're out here, joined by my two brothers, Nkosi Samson. What's goody? Let me start with the boy Mangoro. Mangoro, I was about to say hello to the wonderful listeners out there.
Sure thing, Mr. Mori. Thank you for the platform, by the way. And I'd like to greet our beautiful listeners out there, always tuning into the Forest Brothers podcast. Now you can find us on YouTube. You can put a name to the face. All the controversy, now you can actually know who actually said the wrong things and the correct things. So now you can hold each and every one of us accountable. I'd also like to greet my two fellow hosts here, Mr. Mori, Mr. Mutsa Krista Makufa. I don't know if his name is really Don, but he told us that, so I'll just use it. And my boy, all the way from Nairobi, Mr. Masanga there, Mr. Samson. And yeah, over to you, Sanke.
Hello, dear listener. Welcome to the Forest Brothers podcast. Once again, I'm here with my two brothers, Nkosi, Mutsa. Great to see you gents here. Dear listener, welcome back. As my two brothers have said, you know, we're here. You know, you can see us. You know, you can see our facial reactions as we're saying all the things we're saying. You know, I know a few times we get passionate on this pod and really do talk our nonsense on this pod, and now you can see what we look like when we're saying these things, or as we're dropping knowledge, as we're dropping, you know, the 3 E's, as my brother Nkosi would say. You know, you can see us, and that's important, you know, as we educate, entertain, and enlighten you all, you know. But yeah, this is us, and everyone needs to get used to it. Find us on YouTube, and you know, more platforms coming soon, you know, because we're always going up, we're always developing, always getting better, always progressing. So yeah, keep an eye out, dear listener, and let's get started, gents.
Yeah, let's get. And as you see up here, well, wrong hand, right here. You see Forest Brothers podcast. Find us on Instagram. We're there. Find us on Spotify. Find us on Apple Podcasts. We're there. Yeah, subscribe, share with your friends. But yeah, boys. What a very interesting week that we just saw. And by the way, if you see me sipping in this podcast, just know we're trying to get sponsored. Angry Orchards right here, you know, side of champions. So yeah. if you end up wondering what's that man sipping, just know I'm sipping on that Ayo, you know. So just know. Okay, just had to throw that out there. Boys, let's get started. Let's talk about one of the most, I don't even know what to say, explosive interviews that we've seen from a coach in the last, you know, couple of months. Well, I mean, Klopp is always crying in the media, but it's very, very rare. Okay, I don't know how rare it is, but we haven't seen Conte sit in front of, you know, journalists and go on an explosive rant as he did a couple of days ago when Tottenham drew the game 3-1, drew the game 3-3 after like being up 3-1 to Southampton. As a Tottenham supporter myself, I was so angry. You know, we're 2 goals up. Even that goal that they scored, they should have, like, the fact that Theo Walcott, a former Arsenal player, scored against us was painful enough because they didn't need to score that goal. You know, the fact that we're 2 goals up and we end up drawing the game 3-3 to the bottom team in the table, Southampton. I was angry. Honestly, I was angry because we're trying to stay in top 4 here. You know, at some point I thought we could actually win the league. I was delusional. I admit it. At some point, like in the beginning of the season, I thought Tottenham were definitely going to be top 2 and not 2. You know, going to be number 1 for real. But I accept. I was a little delusional. Things have changed. I'll just be happy with the top 4 right now. And anyway, after the game, Conte goes on a rant. He says, "Yo, man, listen, I am disappointed. These players do not care. These players they're not putting in work. Like, how is it that 20 years have gone by and we've not won a single trophy?" I mean, I know Arsenal players are always clowning us about Harry Kane and the fact that that man has not won a single trophy in his professional career. And he spent a lot of years at Tottenham. So the fact that Tottenham has not won a major trophy in 20 years is appalling. Like, how can we call ourselves a top team side and not have a trophy, right? So he was saying coaches can come and go, but that's not the issue. The biggest issue here is, I guess, Daniel Levy and somewhere at the top there, there's something at Tottenham, like the culture or something. It's like they don't care about winning trophies. And that's what he was saying. Like, I have never seen this in my career. He was mad. I think he's trying to get fired. I think he was sick. And he was like, this is not worth getting sick for. I don't need to stay in Tottenham. And guys, let me just say this. The UK is a depressing place already. I'm pretty sure coaching Tottenham on top of that, like, I'm surprised it lasted this long. So, anyway, let me not ramble. Let me actually take it to my boy Samson, because Samson, I know that as an Arsenal supporter, I don't know if you are like happy with what Conte was saying, if you're like, yo, what is this man saying? But what did you think about his rant? Was it justified? Was he right? What are your thoughts?
It was, it's one of those ones where you hear it and, I couldn't help but just remember, it was about last year around this time when he said something towards Mikel Arteta. He was like, that guy should stop talking to the referees. He talks too much. He talks way too much. And, a year later, who's talking? Who's talking a lot? This guy just can't keep quiet. But I thought it was an interesting rant because, he's right. Like, he's very right. Like, I think the players have a lot of blame here that you can attach to them. And I'm not sure if Mangoro agrees, but there's something similar to what was happening with Chelsea in the 2010s, where you felt like the players just had so much power, and whenever they decided, we're done with this coach, they could just stop playing. Like, they could just stop caring, and that coach would be gone because the results would slide because they're not really trying. And with Spurs, if you look at the last few managers, towards the end of those managers, careers at Tottenham, there have been, rumors of like the players and managers like having a fallout. Right now, there are rumors that Conte has lost the dressing room especially after that rant, and these rumors have been there for a while. Like there was some talk of him, like when he went away, there was some talk that, hey, these guys actually don't really miss him that much because when he was around, he was very intense and he was always on their case. But when he went away, you guys actually won a few games. You actually looked like you want to play, and then he came back and things reverted. So, it's been there, and you see it when you see it with so many managers. You had Poch, too intense. You had Mourinho, too boring. You had Nuno, again, too intense and too boring. And then you have Conte, too angry. And it's like, what are y'all, like Little Red Riding Hood? Like, you want the manager that's just right? Like, at some point, you have to ask the players, hey, man, be professional. Show up. Do your job. Like, it's not a lot to ask. Especially, like, I think one of the big things Conte was talking about was the professionalism. And he even mentioned, we get paid a lot of money here. I get paid a lot of money. The coaches get paid a lot of money. The players get paid a lot of money. We cannot be doing that after the amount of money we get paid. And, and what he was talking about is what you mentioned. 3-1 up against the bottom team in the league. You can't bottle it like that if you have the wage bill Spurs does. That is unacceptable. That is as good as a loss. And yeah, it was a necessary rant, I feel. But I'm not sure it's going to change much because I feel, his contract is running out. And Daniel Levy, if you know anything about Daniel Levy, is that he always takes the easy way out. That man is a snake. Like he is, oh my days. So if he's taught us anything, Conte will be gone by the week or by the international break, or he'll just like set out the season. Maybe actually, maybe Daniel Levy won't even fire him. He will just wait for his contract to run out because he's a cheap ass. I wouldn't say the last part, but he's cheap, so he will not fire. He'll just let the contract run out and move on, and maybe hire Tim Sherwood or something, or who's that player that was interim? Is it Mason? Ryan Mason. He'll bring back Ryan Mason or something.
We don't need that.
But he's cheap and available. That's like Daniel Levy's cup of tea, If you can get,
I'd rather have Vincent Company. We can take Vincent Company from Burnley. I'd rather have that than
no chance. No chance.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, Mangoro, I know that Conte has said similar things when he goes to Chelsea. Like something happened like that. He did the same thing at Inter. We're now saying the same thing at Spurs. So the question is it actually the players or is it Conte himself that has the problem? What do you think about that? Based on his history and this rant that he just gave.
As the podcast of the Uncensored Truth, what Conte was saying was something that was supposed to be said. Sometimes in life, you need to tell the hard truths to some players on they're being selfish, and that was the situation here. But where I don't agree with him is the part around the ownership. That's something you take internal and you speak to Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy about. Those are the things that you don't come out to the forefront and you start saying to the masses. That will never work. You'll be fired in the morning, as we hear that he's on the brink of being fired. So I think that's like the main thing. The other thing that I think maybe we're paying too much attention to is the fact that we need to ask ourselves as supporters and watchers of the beautiful game. Are Spurs a big team? When did we start considering Spurs as part of the Big Six? Why was that a thing that we did? That's the other thing we need to ask ourselves. Because they haven't won a trophy since Juan de Ramos. They haven't done anything of significant note. I hear Pochettino is going to come back. And then you ask yourself that, is it really worth it for Poch to come back, given that when he walked out after that Champions League or the year after the Champions League final, they invested heavily in the team. And then now, over time, over a span of 4 years, you're now going to call him back when you could have just given him the money that he asked for to spend and bring in players that could have taken the team to the next level. I don't think my friend Dele Alli would be playing in Turkey right now, getting his contract cancelled. He'd probably still be a Tottenham player. He'd still be doing something. So it goes to show that there's just so many wrong things happening there at Spurs, and there are no leaders. You cannot tell me that my friend there, Eric Dyer, is your leader. And you see Oliver Skip. I love Oliver Skip. Love the guy, love the personality, beautiful soul, but he's not a top six midfielder. There's a couple. Royale, not good enough. Longley, you saw what he did this past weekend, and he's been doing it the entire season. Yeah, there's a couple. Perisic is probably as old as time. So there's just some players that just don't deserve to play for Spurs. But, I digress from your original question. What was your original question? Just wanted to put that out there for the listeners.
I just as a side note to that, a lot of the players you just mentioned, Conte actually brought them in. So it's not like Conte walked into Tottenham and found all these other players. He actually brought some of these farmers into the team, and now he's like complaining about them as well. Like, hey, you guys have no fight. You're not being professional, being paid a lot of money. I mean, of course, like at the end of the day, they do have to do that, but also Conte has to take some accountability, right? It's not all the players. Like as a man himself, he made some of those decisions in like bringing those guys in, and I feel like Tottenham as a youth academy, I'm sure there's some kids who'll be very hungry to get on the pitch. He can, it's better to at least like give the kids a chance and drop Emerson Royale. Skip has been playing well recently, so I can't fault Skip. But like, for example, Romero makes idiotic decisions almost all the time. Like, if a game goes by and Romero's not caught a yellow card, that's that's a rarity. You know, like that's rare. Romero is always making nonsensical. Like he's a good defender when he wants to be, but for the most part, he's like Granit Xhaka on drugs. You know, that's Romero. that's what he's like. That's the best way I can explain that.
Wow.
So I just I think that Conte needs to take some accountability. But my question to you, Mangoro, is what's happening right now the players' fault or is it Conte? Because we've seen the history Conte has had with Chelsea and Inter, and now he's doing something similar at Spurs in terms of like, hey, these guys don't try hard enough. Yeah. We're not doing as good as I want to. I'm bouncing or whatever. Like he just comes out and criticizes the team essentially, and then he leaves after some time. So if we're seeing a pattern, should we take what Conte was saying to heart, or is he actually right about the players, or are both things true at the same time?
You know, they say in life, two things can be true at the same time, and I think this is one of those occasions, honestly, because it's a collective effort. Conte is not playing on the soccer field, and the players are not coaching, and the players and Conte are not the ones signing the players with Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy. So it's a collective effort from the top down. So you now start to see the issues that are off the field translate on the field. And it's a collective, like it's everyone, honestly. Because you look at the players, when you ask yourself and you look at that entire Spurs squad, from Hugo Lloris to Jaffa Tanganga, for example, or like the entire squad, and you ask yourself, how many world-class players do we have here? How many players does the manager have to extract the most for you to be like, okay, he's decent? I can maybe say three players world class for Spurs. I'd say three, and you can agree or disagree with me, listener, and my two hosts here. But I'd say Kane, Son, and Romero. I'd give him on a good day when he's not doing his specialties, but. Those are the three that I'd say. The rest, you need to ask yourself: are they world class players? That's where I look at like the team as a whole. Secondly, I want to focus on Conte real quick, because now Tottenham are in a situation where they've built a team that is focused on what Conte wants to do. You've given him all the material that he wants to build and build a back three system. Now the next manager, when they come in, you spend 50 million on Pedro Porro, who has played wing back. You bought him because he was a wing back. Same thing with Perisic and the guy that plays on the left-hand side. They're wing backs. Now if the manager wants to play a back four, he's going to have to get rid of this brand new toy here for 50 mil. And the next point is the ownership. What were they looking for when they brought in Antonio Conte? Were they looking for something long-term, or were they looking for some short-term gratification? And it seems like they got neither, because Conte might leave. I think they're at this point where they just need to start afresh. I think maybe they can take Graham Potter off Chelsea's hands. I think they can have him and can go build Spurs for them, because at Chelsea we have a culture of not having time to build. We want to win now, and I think Spurs would be a great fit for him, so that he can build, try his many hundred formations, and they wouldn't, even if the Spurs lose, it would perfectly be fine. Like, there wouldn't be an issue. So I think that's where it lay, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mori there, but Spurs, it's just it's a top-down situation. It's like in a business, like when the leadership and the people below the leadership are doing nonsensical things, it will translate to the outside public, and you'll start to see that business collapse as a result.
Yeah, no, 100%. Go ahead, Samson.
Can I just a quick shout out to our brother Nana, who we had over during the World Cup, our Ghanaian brother. He had a very, I think, apt name for Spurs. I think it was around that Mourinho time when you guys were still trying to sign, like you signed Bale, and then you signed, I don't remember, but you were signing like big people who had like a reputation but weren't necessarily good, and you kind of did it again this year with Langley and Perisic, and those guys, and he called you guys great value Real Madrid. And that description is kind of reflective of what Daniel Levy has been trying to do at the executive level, which is there's a point in time, and it's been sort of like a culture of Spurs. Spurs have always been the team, if you want to call them part of the top 6 or part of the top 8, whatever you want to call them. Anyways, that team in that part of the league that is always putting young players on. Players like, I think Michael Carrick became a star or became a good player at Spurs. You had Gareth Bale, obviously. Who else? You had...
Wait, Michael Carrick played at Tottenham?
Michael Carrick played at Tottenham. He did.
The Manchester guy?
Yes, the Manchester. He played at Tottenham.
There's only one Michael Carrick, my guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just making sure, because I know we had an argument about Reece James the other day, and I just want to make sure we're talking about the same Michael Carrick.
Michael Carrick made his name at Spurs before he went to Manchester United. He made his name there.
That must have been a long time ago, because I don't even know about
it. It was a while. Anyways, Spurs have always had this thing where they just allow young players to come on and perform. And it's always been a thing. There's always been a nice pipeline from the youth team to the first team. And, they haven't had the best academy. So it's not like all these players have gone on to be stars. But that culture has been there, and it's created a nice environment where you see people become cult heroes. People stay for a long time. You build a nice, adventurous type of team. I remember in the 2010s and 2000s, they were very attacking. Spurs, you could have a game go to 4-4, 3-3, 2-2. These are common scorelines for Spurs. Obviously, it's 2-2, 3-3 because they're not very good, but the excitement is there. There's a reason to go watch Spurs. Even as an Arsenal fan, I would tune into Spurs versus Everton because I know something exciting is going to happen. These days, Daniel Levy and the ownership have moved away from that because they want to be, they think they're a big team. They want to join the Super League. They want to have a new stadium. They want to be great value Real Madrid. So what do? They bring in Mourinho. They bring in well-known players. Bring back Gareth Bale. They try all these splashy moves. All the splashy coaches, Conte, Mourinho. And they don't pay attention to the connection between the players, the coach, and the players they're bringing in. All those things have to be aligned. You see it at Arsenal, you see it at Man City, you see it. You don't really see it at Chelsea, but it's coming together at Chelsea. It's at Liverpool. It's happening. So you see that cohesion. There's no cohesion at Spurs. So what Conte is saying, I can agree with him there because the players are doing their own thing. Conte is doing his own thing. The ownership is doing its own thing. They're all individuals, and they should all be working together. But where I disagree with Conte is, like you said, he's done this before. And there's a I think it was on The Athletic. You can look this up. As soon as he signed, I think it was Carl Anka. He's a Manchester United reporter. He basically said, Conte has 3-year cycles. Actually, it might have been Gab McCarty with ESPN. And as he said, Conte has 3-year cycles. The first year, he rebuilds. The second year, he wins. The third year, it crumbles and he leaves. It's happened so many times. It's happened a lot more than you'd think. The only time it didn't happen was at Juventus. He had an extended run. And that's just because they were so dominant. They just kept winning and winning and winning. The last few teams, he hasn't been able to sustain because, even at his best, it's hard to get along with Antonio Conte. So he definitely has some blame here. And I can understand fully why the players would be sick of him at this point. But because those players have been sick of 3 other managers in the last 5 years, I got to look at them differently as well and say, hey, what's wrong with you guys too? Because yes, Conte has his issues, but who haven't you had a problem with? We've given you 3 very different managers in terms of the way they manage, the way they handle players, the way they coach. 3 very different guys. I mean, 4 actually 4. Conte, Mourinho, Santos, and Poch. All of them you did not like. So who do you want?
We liked Poch. We liked Poch. At the
But there
end,
were,
it was
but
Daniel Levy, but we liked Poch.
no, but there was some little, some little thing going on there between Poch and the players. That's why you had to, that's why he was asking for signings because he wasn't getting along. Remember, Alderweireld left on a free. There was starting to be a little. Dembele left, so there was starting to be a little thing going on. And again, I look at the dressing room and the culture that's building there. I think you need better leaders because a better leader would say, "Hey, come on, guys, let's give this guy a chance. Let's listen to him. They wouldn't just say, "Hey, f this guy. We're tired of him," which seems like that's what's been happening. So, yeah, we have to look at those guys.
Well, you know what? That is very true, but I just want to, before we move on, I just want to give a big shout out to Harry Kane because in all that, I actually don't think I've seen Harry Kane come out and say, I hate this manager. It's like, yo, man, listen, this is the gaffer. I'm going to do what I got to do. And for that reason alone, he broke the Premier League record, actually, I think, when he scored against Southampton for having scored 10 away goals every year for the last 7 seasons. Like, no other player has done that. So the fact that Harry Kane at Spurs has managed to achieve that, like every season, that man scores 10 away goals in the last 7 seasons. So to me, that's like a big, big achievement. That man deserves a trophy. So as a Spurs supporter, you know what, Harry, like, I was fully behind Harry Kane going to Man City, like when that whole thing was happening, because in all fairness, that man is a world class like forward. Like Harry Kane is top 5 in the world, in my opinion. Like Harry Kane is the man. If you put Harry Kane in any team, that man's going to deliver. Like technical, he's got it. The only thing that man doesn't have anymore is pace. But he can hold up the ball well. He can he can score with anything on his body. Like, so I just think that generally, like, he deserves better. So I am hearing rumors that he might go to Man United, maybe in the summer. I don't know about Man United right now, but like, hey, if he goes there and he can win a trophy at Man United, you know what? So be it. I will support the man if he goes there. I would rather he go, like, maybe he can go to Germany. I feel like he can win a trophy in Germany very easily. Just go to Bayern. Go to Bayern. He's gonna score 50 goals a season. You know, like that's
he's
gonna
got
be easy.
to, right?
He's got to. Like, him and Son can just go join Werner at Leipzig. My guy, they'll win the league hands down. Like, okay, you know that. Or where else can Harry Kane go? Like maybe Serie A, he can go there if he wants. But if he wants to stay in London, like in the UK, like yeah, Man United seems like a good option. I don't see why he'll go to Man City, given that Haaland's there. So I don't think he'll go there. Maybe he'll go to Newcastle. I doubt that he would do that because that seems like a downgrade. Even though they are doing well now, so I don't know where, but. Yeah, the only plausible team I could see Harry Kane moving to is United. I don't see another team that he would move to. So it's either that or Germany or Syria. But anyways, talking about a team that was right there, but then they lost their heads. Fulham. I know we don't really talk about the FA Cup on this podcast because I don't think anybody watches that much. But listener, if you don't know, Manchester United beat Fulham 3-1. Was it yesterday? And Fulham ended up having 3 red cards. Willian caught a red first for a handball in the box, and then Mitrovic. No, actually, then the coach caught a red card for complaining. Like I think he threw a water bottle at one of the linesmen or something in anger. He also caught a red card. And then Mitrovic apparently shoved, or what is even a shove? It was just like a little shoulder tap. He got another red card, you know? So anyway, Fulham actually winning the game 1-0. They got the 3 red cards. Manchester United got a penalty. Bruno Fernandes put it away. And then they scored 2 more goals after that. And then Fulham got knocked out, unfortunately. But anyway, Mangoro, let me actually ask you, man. Were those 3 red cards justified? Especially Mitrovic's red card. Because Manchester United players, or Manchester United, like Bruno Fernandes, that day they were losing 7-0 to Liverpool. There was a point when Bruno pushed the linesman. no VAR, no talking, no whatsoever. We all saw him push the linesman on the back, like he shoved him, and that was it. And now we're saying Mitrovic didn't even really shove the referee. He just like, I don't know, like what did he do? Like he just tapped his shoulder a little bit. I mean, he had been screaming in the man's face for like the last 5 minutes. So maybe his breath stank and the referee was tired of him. That's like, my guy, please go, just take a walk, my guy. It's fine. Like, please just take a walk. I'm tired. I don't know if that's what it was. But anyway, Mangoro, what is your opinion on the 3 red cards? And did Fulham do themselves a disservice by doing what they did?
So they certainly did do themselves a disservice, honestly, because you look at 3 red cards in a space of probably 3 minutes or 30 seconds. It was such a short space that anytime someone said something, the ref just had the red card in his hand at that point. So when you look at that game, like, I would agree with some of the decisions that the referee took, and maybe some would be questionable. Willian, definitely, that was a red card. I don't know why he thought running onto the line and using his hand, they wouldn't track that. The coach, because also as part of throwing the water bottle, I think he was also interfering with the VAR check there, and he kept on complaining to the ref. And I think that's justifiable, but also it's really, who was it? Some random coach that you don't even know who it is. I don't think it was Marco Silva. Mitrovic, some people would argue that maybe it wasn't a red card. Some people would say it was. I'd sit on the fence. I see the argument for both sides, but I just want to point it out to our listeners out there that the Premier League or the FA have painted a picture for us as football supporters and watchers and analysts, is that in a way that I'd say we need to look at these referees in like some sort of authority on the football pitch. That's why even when they farm the likes of Anthony Taylor and the likes, they always stand with them. They don't correct them. They don't take corrective measures. It's only with people that already don't work for them, like your Lee Masons and the likes, that they get rid of after they farm in VAR. So for them, like, that is like touching a police officer on the soccer field. It's basically that. During, for example, a protest. Speaking of protests, shout out to all the people that went to march in SA today. So I think it's also part of it in that the referee is some sort of figurehead on the field, and he's the one that controls the entire game. So that's why he needs to be respected. He cannot be touched. He cannot be disrespected in that manner, as Mitrovic supposedly disrespected him. Sometimes these referees, when they are farming, I do agree with the players. That's why I say it could have been either one, because they are farming, and someone needs to hold them accountable, and the FA doesn't hold them accountable. So, and also, it also maybe feeds into this narrative that these referees, like this season with VAR and all the drama, they enjoy being the talking point of the game. Now we're not talking about the game, we're talking about referees, and they're getting a good light on them, and maybe they'll get a Netflix series, or they'll get a raise, or the UEFA will see them and put them on the shortlist for Champions League referees. Who knows?
Yeah, I've heard that there's talk about potentially miking referees, because I think in rugby the referees are mic'd, and so I've heard people saying like, "Hey, next season, just based on what we've seen, like, we don't know the rationale sometimes for why a referee does one thing one weekend and does another thing another weekend. So potentially miking them up is going to help solving these inconsistencies, because now these brothers will show themselves. Like, if they're doing some funny business, we'll hear about it. If there's, so I think I am a proponent for that. I think they should get mic'd. I think it'll be good to hear what goes in their heads when they make certain decisions. And, I think that'll be good. But I don't know, Samson, what's your take on potentially miking these refs? And hopefully that is a way to help with, or do we potentially see like a case in America where we said cops, webcams, we need to see that, because then that'll help out to see like if y'all are doing some dodgy in the like, or how you treat black people or whatever, right? Webcams haven't made much of a difference. I mean, now we see it. Like, okay, we see that there's a lot of police brutality, but at the end of the day, those cops walk away still scot-free. Like, some of them just turn them off. Like, just turn off the webcam and say, like, oh, it was a malfunction. Or, that the webcam, for some reason, falls off at the exact moment they're about to throw a punch on someone who's already restrained. Or, I don't know. But webcams have not made much of a difference. In fact, webcams have actually just made it, like, more... It just strengthened the thing that black people have known all along. The police hate black people. And they will beat the crap out of you and still walk away. That's just what it is. And yes, the police system in America was created solely to control black people. If you all look at the history of policing in America, they were created to control slaves. So if you want to look at the history of that, check it out. The police in America were literally that was the only reason that they came about, policing slaves. And then obviously that's but anyway, I digress. Side note, go watch. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let me come back to my original point. Yeah. Okay. I digress. But final point on that is, if you really want to learn more about this, go watch the 1619 Project on Hulu. It gives a very good account of like how that policing thing came about, and just like a lot of like the black people's history from the moment they landed on the shores of America. Like, it's a very informative series. The 1619 Project on Hulu. Anyways, so the point I was bringing about the webcam thing with the police was, if referees get mic'd up, we might still find ourselves in situations where now we hear the decisions that they're making, but the governing body will still not hold them accountable. They'll be like, hey man, listen, we just have the mics on them. Yeah, sure, we made a mistake, but we're not going to overturn the score. Like, let's say if there's a controversial decision, a penalty is given or not given, and the team loses, and then they just apologize, like, oh yeah, even though we heard what was going on, they're just like, oh yeah, and then just leave it at that. That could be like a situation that takes place. But anyway, like that's kind of what I was going through with the whole police thing. That's the analogy I was trying to make. But anyway, Samson, I don't know what you think about all that.
Okay. I think, unlike with the police, because the police are an arm of the government, and they have unions, and they have, an entire leadership structure that can protect them, protect the guys at the bottom. Referees, I mean, maybe there are unions out there, but at the end of the day, this is a business, like the cops saving someone or not saving someone is not really impacting. Like, there's no business of policing, like this stuff is not like televised anywhere. There are no ads, there are no sponsors. Like people, if you ref for the Premier League, you are refereeing for a product which the fans are paying for. The guy who got fired, it's Lee Mason, right? Right. Lee Mason was refereeing for the Premier League. He made a mistake, and Premier League fans saw that he made a mistake, and Premier League fans made him trend on Twitter for a week, and they said this guy's incompetent. There are actually like so many shows, like all the reaction shows, like the ones on the Premier League's own channel, Sky Sports, BT Sport, BBC, they're all like, yo, not drawing the lines as a VAR official is so incompetent. How does he have a job? They were all saying this for a week until he got fired. So the stakes are much different. And I think if you get to hear what some of these guys say, I mean, I remember, was it Barcelona Inter or Barcelona Bayern? There was a penalty incident. And I remember Frankie de Jong went, and because I think it was Dumfries going up for a header defending a corner, and it hit his arm. And Frankie de Jong had a long conversation with the referee after the game. And he was asking, hey, why didn't you give that as a pen? And the referee told him straight up, it was not handball. After we had all seen it was handball. After the referee had seen on the Monitor was like, he just told him straight up it wasn't handball with a straight face, and he walked away. That's what Frank de Jong told the reporters afterwards. He just told me it's not handball. So if we get to hear some of those conversations, some people will lose their jobs because you will hear how incompetent some of these guys are. And I truly believe, like, you can't tell me there are no other incompetent refs in the Premier League. If a guy doesn't draw the lines, granted that man is gone, but there have been other egregious calls this season. If we actually get to hear their rationales, it'll be unbelievable. It'll be like hearing a toddler explain themselves. It'll be insane, and they will lose their jobs. So I think it'll be a good thing, because you will get officials who are more careful about what they say, more careful about what they do, and officials who are actually up to the task. Because maybe for some of these guys, the pressure is just too much. And we've seen it, the World Cup, we saw Lahore's scared to send an Argentinian player off. And because he's scared to send the Argentinian players off, he's scared to send the Dutch players off. So no one gets sent off, but everyone gets yellow cards, and yellow cards, and yellow cards. And no one's catching a second yellow card, even though they're on their fourth foul. Such guys are going to be scrubbed out of the game if they have to explain why they're making those decisions. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good addition.
Oh, actually, just to add on to that real quick. I think that's the starting point. Mark them up. Secondly, I think they deserve a post-match reaction. Players have post-match reactions when they've performed well, one man of the match, when they've performed poorly, come out and apologize to the fans. Managers, even when they farm, they come and they speak to the media. I think it's part of their contracts, and because they'll catch a fine if they don't. And I think the referees should also have a nice post-match reaction there with Jeff Shrees, and he can ask them some very intuitive, some very posing questions that they would need to answer, especially around controversial decisions that they make, and they can tell us why they made those decisions. I'd be very interested to hear what agenda Mr. Anthony Taylor, who is not honorable, I would like to know what agenda he has against Chelsea. That's one thing I would like to know from him. Post-match, in any game that he refs where Chelsea is involved, be it a big game or a small game against Burnley for the likes. So I think that's like the main piece. Just ensure that they all have a post-match reaction, and we can start to hear what they're thinking, because at the end of the day, maybe they're under pressure, maybe their wife left them or something, maybe it's that, and that's why they're farming on the field. Who knows?
I mean, that's the thing though, that's the one side, right? But then the other side is that the governing body has to also hold these refs accountable. Like, if Anthony Taylor is being told, hey, why did you give that player a red card when he didn't deserve it? And he just simply says, to be honest with you, I hate that guy. Or, to be honest with you, and then there's no repercussions. I just grew up hating Chelsea. And sometimes I make biased decisions. If they still don't remove him from any other Chelsea games, then it's okay, then this man might even become worse. Because now we know what he's about. Now every Chelsea player would know, okay, Anthony is out and said on television that he hates us as a team. How do we respond to that? How do we play against this bias? Now we might enter this strange world where teams start paying refs, like what Barcelona were doing. Now we might see Man City paying refs for certain games. I don't know. I think it'll just ruin the whole game. So at the end of the day, I hope the referee decision, the referee body, makes the right decisions, because we don't want Premier League to become a reality TV show where the bad guys are the refs or the good guys or whatever, and it's every week people are just waiting to see who's reffing what game, because then what the vibes are gonna be, So I think that's the second piece of that. So anyway, moving on ahead, let's talk about Crystal Palace for a little bit. Listener, as you may or may not know, Patrick Vieira was fired from Crystal Palace, I believe last week Friday, before their game against Arsenal. And to be honest, Crystal Palace had not had a good run of games. I think they had not won this whole year. They've been just drawing games or losing. And I guess, the bosses are not happy about that. And I don't know, for me, it just didn't make sense as to why you'd get rid of the man before a big team, a big game, against Arsenal. Right now, I believe Crystal Palace are sitting, where in the league? They are 11th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they're 12th. They are actually 11 points behind Aston Villa. And they are, okay, yeah. So we'll also talk about like the tightness in that bottom half. Like right now, between Crystal Palace and Southampton, which is at the very bottom, there's literally 4 points between them. 4 points between 12 and 20. So if Crystal Palace lose a game and anyone else down there, except for Southampton, wins a game, they are at level with Crystal Palace. Like that's how crazy it is right now. So I assume maybe the bosses saw that and they're like, hey, we need a change. But it didn't make sense, in my personal opinion, that they get rid of him before a big game like Arsenal, because the players trust him. He at least has somewhat of a system, like something. And then, they gave that guy, and I'm hearing that they want to bring Roy Hodgson as the coach to finish off the season. But for me, there are 10 games left to the season. I don't know what bringing a new coach is going to do at this point. I remember, what team was it last season where they brought in a coach? Was it they replaced Parker with somebody? I can't remember, but I think, or was it Everton? And they had a few games left, and then he won like the last 5 games and they survived, right? I think that's something that happened. Maybe they want to do like a repeat of that. But anyways, Samson, since Vieira is a former Arsenal man and Crystal Palace played you guys, what did you take of his sacking? Because for me, I think it was not the smartest decision, but I want to hear what your thoughts are on the sacking of Patrick Vieira and whether the man deserved better.
Yeah, first off, I'll just say shout out to the Arsenal fans that were in attendance on Sunday. They were screaming at Palace fans and Palace players that, they're singing, Patrick left because you're garbage. They didn't use the word garbage, but, you can fill in the blanks. And they were chanting that when we're 4-1 up. But yeah, it's a poor decision, in my opinion, because the relegation race is wide open. Like, yes, they're in a fight. They're 3 points from safety. I get that. They haven't won a game this year. Last game they won was the 31st of December. I get that too. They've had some shocking performances, like when they were 2-1 down to Manchester United and Casemiro choked Will Hughes, got sent off, and they just didn't attack. They played like they were down to 10 men or 9 men. Even though United were vulnerable, like they didn't try to win. And that's been a criticism of Vieira. It's a very real criticism. Like, they don't get on the front foot. He plays a little bit like it's in Conte, except he takes it to like a new level. Even when like he's drawing, he'll pretend like he's 20th and he's just securing some lead, some imaginary lead that he doesn't have. And you would even hear it. Like, Zaha gave a post-match press conference sometime last year after a tough draw, and he was like because he'd scored and they were struggling, and I think it was Jeff Shrews actually, he was asking, aren't you happy with the point? He was like, yeah, I guess I'm happy, but I'm upset because we did not keep going. We were on the front foot, we had a goal, we controlled possession, and we didn't keep going. And we defended, and we took off attackers, and then we conceded, and that was very avoidable. And he was right. It was a very avoidable situation. If you just kept going, kept putting the pressure, which you had the game under control, just kept pushing, you'd have won the game. And that is something that's happened so many times this season. So for that reason, I'd say yes. Maybe he had to go, but given how that 8-team fight for relegation looks like, and given who they have left to face, I believe they have 10 games remaining. 2 of those games are against top half teams. The other 8 games are against bottom half teams. I mean, how do you sack a manager with that kind of run? Like, and this is like after, like this is like, I think this is including, no, actually, no, this is after Arsenal. There's only 2 top half teams.
Yeah,
So,
let me just say, so the next game that they're playing is Leicester, which, I mean, we've seen how Leicester is doing. Then they play Leeds, they play Southampton, they play Everton, they play Wolves, they play West Ham. And then there's like Tottenham, which is like, I think the second to last game. And like, then they play Bournemouth. Oh, sorry. Well, after Tottenham, they play Bournemouth, Fulham, and Nottingham Forest. That's the schedule that's right now. So
that, I think out of all those teams, that's probably the best schedule. Like, that is, like, their future is in their hands. Even if they draw against all the teams around them, they will survive. Because you're taking points off them too, and you're ahead of them right now. So you didn't even have to win every game. Just draw as many as you can, and you're going to be fine. So I think from that perspective, you know, the ownership didn't really think it through. Because if you just look at those fixtures, look at the guy you have, look at the amount of draws he's been able to get, he can survive. You will survive. You will be fine. Taking that decision and potentially bringing back Roy Hodgson, I mean, bro, Roy Hodgson ball, if you thought Vieira ball was depressing, Roy Hodgson ball is, oh my goodness. I don't even think we'll see Eze play again. We might not see Olise again. Like, some of these guys are done for the season. Like, it's going to be 5-4-1s with Zaha, with the lone man up top for the rest of the season. It's going to be absolutely dreadful. And Palace fans, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what you're about to witness.
yeah, it's going to be like 5 white center backs. Tompkins, some other random guy, someone else, and like guys we've not seen all season. 5 center backs. Boom. And then, like, yeah, as you said, like maybe 2 guys in the middle, like, and then that's the one guy. Like, I don't know. I just feel sorry for Crystal Palace because I don't know. I just they feel like they're like the Forest Brothers team. You know, it's just like full of black people. It's black players. It's like a safe haven. Like, if you're black and you want like a black coach, black players, you know where you go to Crystal Palace. You know, that's like our black team in the league. You know, like, so I feel like with Hodgson coming on, some of these brothers are about to be sent packing. You know, they're about to go play in the reserves, and we're about to see some other 18-year-old white kid from who knows where starting as a left winger, and we're gonna be like, hey, what? Who is that? But I don't know. Maybe you, Mangori, have got a different perspective since you like to give the reality. And maybe, do you think Roy Hodgson will actually do a better job than Patrick Vieira? Like, if they're, I don't even know when they're trying to appoint him. Actually, I don't know if they're gonna appoint him in like the next week or 2. I have no idea when they're actually gonna do that. There's not that much time left, so maybe now, between now and the international break, is probably the best time to get somebody. But Roy Hodgson is 75 years old, guys. He's not a spring chicken. That man is in retirement. They're literally taking him out of his bed, taking off his robe, putting on a suit, and giving him, you know, some sketches because he can't stand for 90 minutes on the touchline to watch the game. Like, he's gonna be sitting down most of the time. Not to be ageist, but man has seen a few years. So anyway, Mongoro. Yeah, I don't think it does. I really don't know why they're trying to bring stress into his life. You know, now he has to, like, yeah, I don't know. This battle's about to be intense, as you just said. 4 points. It's about to be crazy. This does not need a man who was used to waking up, walking his dog, drinking tea, and going to bed at 4 p.m. This is not like, this is not what he needs right now. But anyway, Nkosi, what are your thoughts on all this?
So, bringing back Roy Hodgson, just to put it out there, it's an absolute disaster. That's just the fact. I think he's not the one that you need to be bringing in. I think they're just at a point now where They just need to bring in someone to get them to the end of the season, and then they can take a look again at the end of the season. Like a caretaker manager. I don't know who's in the market right now that's available, but they need to stop with this Roy Hodgson thing. I don't know what fantasy that Steve Parrish has with him, but like he's definitely not the answer. They need someone who's just going to get to them. I know maybe the argument is that that's Roy, but Roy is in retirement. Like what are they gonna do? Give him a contract and he'll take it, and then I don't think the stress will be able to handle it. He should just kindly reject the job, and they should just go look for someone else. They shouldn't take any of those championship coaches. We saw Mr. Nathan Jones come in for probably the shortest Premier League reign in history. So none of that. I think there are managers that are sitting at home. Nuno, till the end of the season, could do quite a good job. He's got a good record on setting up a good defense that can just get draws and wins once in a while. I think that should be more than enough. I don't think Tuchel would even think about answering a call from Steve Parrish or anyone connected with Crystal Palace. I think he values himself much higher than Crystal Palace. So there are managers sitting at home unemployed. You don't have to take them out of any club. That could just get you to the end of the season, honestly.
Yeah, I hope if Roy Hodgson says no, or maybe his wife says, "Bro, you're not going out there," maybe we'll see the likes of Gerrard back or Frank Lampard.
So none of those coaches as well. Definitely not both of them. No, they're not cut out for this.
You bring Frank Lampard here, and he will find a way to finish 20th. I promise you, he will. Statistically, it's very hard for them to finish 20th, being 12th, but he will find a way to be 20th because Lampard, man, stop with Lampard, man.
Maybe they'll bring Thierry Henry. Actually, wait, is he still in the job with Belgium?
Yeah, he's still with Belgium.
No, that brother's another disaster.
Wait, no, it's not. Did he move from Belgium? Was he?
No, he got removed from Belgium quite a long time ago. The only is a pundit now. So none of that, please. No Vieira, none of that. Need an experience.
I just feel like they need a black coach, and I'm just trying to think of the black coaches. Maybe Nuno is the one. Like if they bring Nuno, maybe that's what it is. But Nuno will just start bringing Portuguese players. I feel like we'll just see. I don't know.
The short term, you just give him until the end of the season. You don't give him the whole season.
Yeah. But also, I feel like they'll have too much self-respect. Like, if they know, like, hey, you're just going to coach for 10 games and we're just going to chop you up. Like, that doesn't look good on you as a manager. Like, imagine if you're Nuno and you manage Tottenham this season and then you find yourself at the end of the season and you're coaching Crystal Palace to help them beat relegation. Like, and you know you're going to get fired at the end of it still. Unless if they do such an amazing job and Crystal Palace wins all 10 games that are left, then maybe, like, they secure the job, but that's not likely going to happen. But yeah.
Let me ask you this. Would you be Nuno and sit at home and wait for this prosperous opportunity that's supposed to come, or take this Palace job? Because his reputation is in the ruin right now, given what happened at Spurs. People don't remember all the good work he did at Wolves. People only remember, in football, you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd actually forgotten that Nuno was our coach this season. So, hey, if I have forgotten about it,
last season,
it was like, you see, I feel like I forgot that man used to coach us. Like it was out of my head. Like I'd actually forgotten. So like, I think people have forgotten. I don't think people are holding on to Nuno like that. I hope anyway. But anyway, before we close, one last thing. There was also El Classico this past weekend, and I know in our group we have a fake Barcelona supporter who apparently watches all the Barcelona games. He knows himself. I know he tries to act like he watches La Liga, but I know for a fact that he does not. Like, I know that man does not watch La Liga at all. Once in a while, maybe. But I just know that he's a fake Barca fan, just for vibes. Anyways, he was saying, let's watch El Clasico. And I said, for what reason? Because it just doesn't seem like El Clasico has the je ne sais quoi anymore. Ever since Ronaldo left, Messi left, I don't know, man. Sometimes I even forget La Liga is a league. Like I just feel like I even looked at that table the other day, and it's what Barcelona is number one, Real is number two, and then Atletico is number three. The same story it's been over the last 10 years. Like, same shit, just a different day. And what's the point of why would I keep watching that? I mean, I don't know, but I suppose like, is it just me? Do you guys feel the same way about El Clasico? I can start with you, Mangoro. Like, what do you think about? Is El Clasico still as hot as it used to be back in the day, or do you just feel like what a waste of time? Especially with the scandal about Barcelona paying the refs and just like I don't know, just all the craziness that goes on in Spain, like all the racism. I heard Vinny like is being racially abused almost every game he plays. Vinicius Junior, for the people who don't know him as Vinny, but like he gets racially abused all the time in Spain. I don't know. Like, Nkosi, what are your thoughts on whether El Clasico is still a good thing to watch, or if it's just a thing of old memory at this point?
I'd say it's a thing of old memory. I think the El Clasico has lost its gravitas, as I'd like to put it that way. Because, as you mentioned, Messi and Ronaldo it goes to show that they were the ones that carried that game in the past, let's say, a couple of years. Because you look at the Ballon d'Or, the best awards now, when they're not being nominated, no one cares. No one really cares. But back in the day, it used to be a showpiece event. Same goes for El Clasico. You'd be tuning into any form of live stream that you could find and ensure that you watch the game and you could have some talking points after the game in the conversations that you have with your friends. But now it's just some random item that people are playing out there, and you find out after the fact. You just read the score. No, not even read the score. You get told the score that there was an El Clasico that was played and so won. And it's just that La Liga, I think, has just died down now. And it's not that same league that it was. That's why Javier Tebas is always calling the Premier League the new Super League, because that's where everyone's at. That's where everyone's eyes are. And maybe it's just that now people are more interested in the Premier League because there's more money there, more coverage, more entertainment, better players. Some would argue other leagues have better players, but I think that's just what's killed La Liga. The money in between these other leagues has actually made the Premier League more user-friendly per se, and La Liga in itself is quite a boring division.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like that's the reason why I will literally wake up to watch Brentford versus Southampton, but you will not catch me waking up to watch Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. Like that's just the honest truth. And the fact that even as we're saying that the bottom teams between 12 and 20, there's 4 points between them. It means those games are going to be high quality because they all have something to fight for. And the teams above them between 3 and 10 are all trying to fight for Europe. So literally almost every single game you watch in the Premier League is a good game because it means something. It either means you're about to get into the top half, like top 5 or top 6, or it means you're gonna get yourself out of the bottom 3. And so that's kind of what that means, which you don't see that in La Liga. Like if Osasuna are playing Real Betis, like come on, man. Not to disrespect La Liga, but come on. Like are you really telling me about like spend 90 minutes of your time in the day to watch Osasuna versus Real Betis? Like that's just me. But anyway, Samson, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I think you guys have a point, especially, Mangoro, I think the Premier League has really taken away some eyeballs from La Liga, and not just La Liga, but taken them from Serie A as well. Bundesliga didn't really have eyeballs, and neither did Liga, but, that's another story. But, yeah, it's tough, man. There's more. And I think maybe it's just the individual teams. They're not as, like, the brand appeal isn't there, maybe, outside of Atletico, Real Madrid, Barcelona. What other team, would you say you're really, really following? Because I'm looking at the top 6 here. Real Sociedad in 4th, Real Betis in 5th, Villarreal 6th. Athletic Club in 7, maybe I would follow just because of Inaki Williams. But other than those, I mean, I really don't know. But in the Premier League, and you see it, maybe maybe it's just the way it's presented and the way it's broadcast, its marketing. But when you see the Premier League's show, I forget what they call it, but the one on NBC, and they do the fan events, you see supporters of just about every team. You see Everton supporters, you see Southampton supporters, you see Sheffield supporters, you see people from everywhere just supporting a team. And I think that's what the league is missing. Like, it's just the top 3 teams and the rest. And people don't really care as much about the rest. And what that means is, outside of El Clasico, are you really watching La Liga? And if you're only watching El Clasico, then you kind of don't get invested into the story of the season, because the Premier League has a story and everyone knows it, you know. Everyone knows about, Chelsea's down year. Everyone knows about Arsenal's rise. Everyone knows about, when United and Liverpool played and Liverpool did what they did. Everyone around the world knew the scoreline. These are things that you don't miss. They don't go over your head anywhere. And I think that's just what the league is missing. Just the presentation, the viewership, the storytelling. It's just not there. And I will say this: El Clasico was a great game. I enjoyed it. I watched it. Fantastic game. I enjoyed the football. Real Madrid's goal was very scrappy, but they played well. They had a lot of intensity. I was enjoying the passes, Modric and Kroos in the midfield just flinging passes, and it looked very nice. But beyond the game, when I looked up, was I truly invested? Was I thinking to myself, hey, who's Real Madrid playing next? Hey, who's Barca playing next? Who's in this top 4 race? I was not thinking that. I was like, hey, that was a great game. It was like watching a cup game, or like watching an FA Cup game. Like, hey, it's done. Let's move on. When's the next one? And yeah, that's it. I know there's another Classico coming up. I think it's round 2 of the Copa del Rey. Barca 1-0 up. I'll probably watch that, because it's another Classico. Like, if I'm watching Spanish teams, I'll watch them. But will I really care about the league? No. And that's just kind of the issue. That's just where they're at as a league right now.
Yeah, you know what? You can watch that game with the other fake brother in the group. That's okay. y'all enjoy that. But anyway, listener, thank you so much for all this. We certainly hope that you enjoyed this episode. And once again, please do subscribe if you have not yet. I'm sure you're gonna be you see little notifications throughout the episode to subscribe. Please do share the episode with your friends. Share with your friends' friends. We are here. We're the Forest Brothers. If you're to listen to our older episodes, once again, you'll find us on Spotify. You'll find us on Anchor. You'll find us on Apple Podcast, where we have a bunch of our older episodes, and even non-soccer episodes as well. Like, we've done episodes on, transgender rights. We've done episode on, black men growing old. I'm a piano. So if you find that stuff interesting, real estate even. So go into our Spotify, go into your Apple, you'll see all those episodes. Just to put that out there. But boys, it's time to say goodbye. So Ale Mangoro says final peace and blessings to the people out there, and then over to you, Sangi, and then we close it out.
Oh yes, listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Forest Brothers podcast. Happy now that you can see some faces on the Forest Brothers podcast. I think people were tired of just hearing our voices. They're on these other streaming platforms, but they've helped us get to where we're at today. So I'd like to thank all the people that have been with us now that we've moved to another platform such as YouTube and the likes. It should be important that you do 3 things now that you're on YouTube. And it's just everything, I think, works well in 3s. Today's 3s are going to be very simple, listener. It's going to be like, share, and subscribe to the Forest Brothers podcast. Over to you, Mr. Masanga.
Very well said, Mangoro. Once again, dear listener, you have been with the Forest Brothers podcast, and it's always a pleasure bringing you guys this pod. It's been a pleasure doing it, even if we haven't been on video, just audio. It's been fantastic doing that. This is even better, and we're enjoying it. Once again, great being here with my two brothers, Mangoro Mori, as always. Fantastic doing this pod with you guys. And yeah, like my guy Muta said, our bag is very deep. We're more than a soccer podcast. We've got moves on moves on moves. Things we can talk about, things you haven't even thought of. We can whip out. Yeah, you saw my man Muta today. Just went on a total tangent out of nowhere. Surprised both of us even. Like, we can do that any day. Any single day. And we've got so many other things to talk about. We've got so many episodes we've done about so many different topics. Check them out. Stay tuned with us. Stay with us. And we'll keep entertaining and keep enlightening. Keep, what's the last one?
Educating. Keep educating. And it's who we are. It's the Force Brothers. And Let's forget the 3 E's of Magara. Anyway, listen, thank you so much. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.